Well, good morning. Thursday morning, September 24th. Going to start this show. Um, the purpose of this show is to discuss how to become a social business and some social media tips. So some interesting things that have come up even in the last couple of days. So I'll just run through some things while I'm waiting for some guests, some people to show up in the audience. I see a few people have subscribed, so hopefully some more people come in. So let me tell a little bird while I'm talking about that. Now, first thing I want to mention is, as I get an email response, there's a newer platform called Alignable, and I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but Alignable is, I think Google Local meets LinkedIn meets Facebook, I guess. So it's essentially all small businesses, and it will show you the small businesses in your immediate vicinity. And the nice thing about it is it's almost like networking. I created an account probably a month or two ago, and I started adding some businesses local to me just today. And within 30 minutes of adding some businesses, I got a phone call from one of them asking if I wanted to meet with them. Um, in the spirit of transparency, I am a little under the weather, got a cold or something, so if I start choking or something, call 911. I'm just kidding, don't call 911. But so I told her, I'm a little under the weather. I don't want to get anybody else sick. I already got the entire house sick, so I'm a little under the weather. Can we meet next Tuesday? But within 30 minutes of adding this business, it's a storage facility, to my account, they called me up and asked for a meeting. I think that's pretty impressive. So that's Alignable. So check that out if you're a smaller business or you want to network with smaller businesses. It's Alignable. Let me see if it's alignable.com. Yes, Alignable. Let me spell it again. I think I spelled it wrong. Alignable.com. So definitely check that out. It's a pretty cool platform. It's pretty simple. They also ask for reviews on other platforms, so I just provided a nice little review for Yelp. I'm not a fan of Yelp, and it seems that most people are not a fan of Yelp. So check that out. It's free to join. I don't know if there's any paid features. I haven't really investigated it 100% yet, but it is free to join and free to start networking. So another topic that came up just this morning, and I've had this conversation many times with different types of businesses. This business happened to be a law firm. And that conversation is, well, there's this company that will build my website and provide blog posts for my website. Whatever the number is, they'll provide blog posts for my website, and they do this for other attorneys. So he gave me the name of the marketer that does this, and I went to their site, and yes, their niche is actually a very specific type of attorney. So here's the problem. They're taking these blog posts, and let's say they have 20 attorneys as clients, a small number. Their fees are not even that bad for what they're doing. Their fees are very on the low end, but here's why they're on the low end. They're just copying, pasting the blog post from one blog to another. The same blog post is on multiple attorney sites. In fact, one of the ones that I saw on the site was a Forbes article that they just copied and pasted. And where that becomes a problem is if you're trying to improve your Google rankings. Hey, thanks for joining me, David. You're the first one to come in, so thank you for that. And you left. If you're trying to improve your Google rankings, you're not going to do it that way. Google wants original content, fresh content, relevant content to your business, to your website. And the problem is if you're copying and pasting blog posts, or if your marketer is copying and pasting blog posts from another source, or spreading those blog posts out over multiple sources, you're not going to rank. Google's going to take one and choose that one as the source. So if you're copying and pasting from Forbes, that Google's going to count the Forbes article because Forbes has more authority than you do. And forget about everybody else. I even tell clients, if you're going to blog, don't post your blog post. Great, you write original content, but don't post it on multiple websites. So let's say for me, I'm a guest blogger on business2community.com. If I write a blog post for there, I'm not also going to post it on my website. Or if I do, I know instantly that it's not going to rank on Google. But as a general rule, I don't post it on both sites. That's not to say you can't share it across social media. You can share it. Just don't post the entire blog post. Just post an excerpt and a link back to the original blog post. In fact, social sharing is encouraged because that does send signals to Google saying, hey, I'm here. Come check it out. Look at my blog post. The more signals you send, or the more signals that are sent, for example, again, going back to business to community, one of my articles that I wrote many, many months ago was shared again today, and it's been shared 444 times now. That's a signal. Unfortunately, it doesn't help me, my site, but it's a signal to Google that says this is something that people are interested in, and it'll drive traffic to that article and hopefully drive traffic back to my site as a result because my website information is there. Another example is tomorrow and every Friday we myself and my partner Eugene Resnitsky of Traeger Insurance, we host a live podcast now on Blab. And we always talk to a business owner that might have a unique perspective on marketing or business growth or social media or whatever it may be to help other small business owners learn how to grow their businesses. And tomorrow's guest is a blue-collar business. It's a moving company. And we're going to talk about how can social media help blue-collar business? Or can it help? I don't know. I've talked to plumbers and electricians, and they all seem to think it cannot help. So we're going to have that conversation tomorrow. I'd be curious to hear what everybody else has to say about that, but we're going to have that conversation tomorrow. And I think you're going to learn that, yes, it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in, social media can indeed help. But the point is I've shared this post on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, the usual suspects, Google+, Instagram even, and the traffic to that particular page on growthsuccessradio.com has skyrocketed. Now, I'm not sure. This is the third show we're doing in this format. I'm not sure why suddenly the visits to the show page have gone up dramatically. I want to say at least 10 times more than any other page at this point, except for the home page. So that's a good sign, and most of it is coming from social media. A very high percentage of it is coming from social media. So that alone says there's a lot of blue collar businesses out there that are curious. What can social media do for their business? So that's tomorrow morning. Normally we're at 10 a.m. Tomorrow we're at 9 a.m. We had to accommodate our guest. So check that out. It is on Blab. And if you go to growthsuccessradio.com, you'll see the link. Or if you go to my profile on here, you'll see the link. So I hope to see some people on there. I'm thinking maybe one of the reasons I'm not getting a lot of people in here this morning is because I switched it from last night. Like I said, I'm under the weather, so I moved the show time to this morning, was even considering canceling it this morning, but I did not in the interest of being, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Anyway, so my head's a little groggy. Been doing a lot of reading on Blab and I did post a blog post on Blab on my website, which is scottgombar.com, as you can see on the screen there. And it's 5 quick tips to helping your business grow using Blab. However, this morning I found another article from a gentleman named Ben. I'm going to mess up his last name. It looks like Requania. I'm not really sure how to say it. Sorry, Ben, if you ever see this. But it's BenRequuena.com, and he's got quick tips for Blab. And he actually has 40 quick tips, so it's awesome. There's a lot of good tips in here. I've been thinking about getting a microphone. I had a headset microphone, and for whatever reason, people have a hard time hearing me. The first show I did with it was great, and ever since then, I guess there's some type of feedback issue with it, so I've stopped using it. So I'm using the computer microphone, and in his article, he points out 2 good microphones, so I will be spending some money and getting a microphone. The nice thing is that they're relatively inexpensive. I did go ahead and purchase Manicam, or Manicam, I'm not really sure. Most people say Manicam, but it's spelled Manicam. And that's how I'm doing these, scottgombar.com across the bottom, and that's how, if you watched the replay, you saw that my company logo was there initially. So also a good spend. I think it was $20 for the personal edition. There is an enterprise edition that I think is a couple $100. But, you know, whatever fits your needs is great. I got to get better lighting. As you can see, if I have the... Hey, Paul. Paul, I think we spoke before, right? Jump in, Paul, if you have some time. Let me allow Paul in. Hey, yes, I remember you now. You're the local politician in the UK, right?
That's me.
That's you.
But that's so in the UK we have at local government level. So I'm not a national politician. So I only do that in my spare time. And although we do get paid, it's more of a part-time job than a full-time job, unlike the national politicians. But during the day, I'm a social media professional.
Oh, okay. We have a similar path there, except that I don't get involved in politics. So the Pope,
Fair enough.
The Pope
it's not for everyone.
No,
it's not for everyone.
Definitely not. I don't think. I think.
That said, Scott. That said, people say to me all the time, "Oh, I have no interest in politics." Yet you get into a conversation with them about anything at all, and there's a political connotation somewhere, because everything we do in our lives is governed by the policies that our politicians make.
Absolutely.
So if you have an opinion on anything, then you are by default political.
Yeah, but I think there's a little bit of a degree of not always being transparent with politicians, and I'd have a hard time with that one. Hey, Pat, thanks for joining us. If you want to jump in the open seat, feel free.
Well, you might like something that I did for the first time last night then, Scott, because I actually agree with you there. And a lot of politicians, both at local level and national level, are quite faceless in that they're not very visible. And you don't know what they do. And while they may not be very active on social media, actually, they may be very active, and they may deal with hundreds of letters every week or thousands of letters every week, and they may attend many committee meetings and are very, very active. But you wouldn't know that because they're not on social media telling people what they're doing. But that said, last night I hosted the very first, what I understand, a world first actually, where politicians, I hosted a blab with 5 or 6 other politicians, and we allowed members of our community to ask them questions in the comments, and it worked really well. And it was just a test really last night, but it went so well, we're going to start doing it as a regular thing.
So that's awesome. That kind of ties in with, becoming a social business, but yes, it works for politicians too. And I did speak to someone else on Blab about that, and it would be great to even see a political debate on Blab. You know, we're approaching presidential election here in the United States.
Sure.
I think that would be amazing, just to see some of the politicians on Blab having a debate. Maybe have two politicians and then a third.
Absolutely. I think I watched the Blab town hall meeting last week, and I think it was Sean who said that we're waiting we're wondering who is going to be the first politician on Blab. What I took to mean by that was, which one of the presidential candidates will be the first one. I'm willing to hazard a guess it'll be Trump.
That'd be interesting. I don't know. I could see Hillary Clinton give it a try only because of the success that Obama had when he was running with social media.
What with social media?
Yeah. I could see that happening. But then again, I think for Clinton and for Trump, they might have a lot more to lose by doing it than they would to gain. I don't know. Trump needs to learn how to bite his tongue a little bit, and Clinton just has that perception at this point, true or not.
But some people, that character of Trump, that what we probably perceive to be a flaw in his character, that he just sort of says what he wants. Actually, to a lot of people, that's his appeal.
No, I know.
They're sick of. Don't get me wrong. I don't like Trump as a politician.
Gary, thanks for joining, Gary.
But I think people are sick of these polished, politicians who where every little thing they say it has been analyzed and brainstormed, and people are sick of that. So that to a lot of people is his appeal. Anyway, I didn't want to hijack your blab on politics, because I know it's not.
I
have a counter on that.
Hey, Pat.
What's that, Pat?
I have a counter thought on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Listening to you,
Gary,
gentlemen.
we got one more open seat if you want to join. Go ahead, Pat.
I think we have a tendency to blame politicians for too many of the problems that happen in the world. I think really the issue is the electorate picks these people. All they really want to do is get reelected. And we have the opportunity to unelect them every few years. We don't. Incumbents have I think they have an 80-90% likelihood of being reelected. I think the real issue is not them. I think it's us.
Yeah,
it's us.
Yeah.
And
there is also the viewpoint, Pat, that don't blame the players, blame the game. And the thing is that the electoral system of the United States and the UK, for that matter, were devised many, many years ago. There's been very little reform of the electoral process. So, for instance, in America, I
believe we're democracy 1.0. I believe the UK is in democracy like 1.5, and we could use a version 2.0.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be reform of the electoral system, I would say. Were you aware that in America, because your candidates can have unlimited amounts of money to campaign?
Yep.
Where in the UK, they're limited.
Yep.
And it's not a lot of money either that they get to campaign. In fact, I, as a politician, in my local elections, it's a small amount of money we're allowed to use for campaigning purposes.
Yes. So what?
Which means
should be able to make wise decisions, despite the fact that there's a lot of extreme, pandering commercials on television.
We don't have that in the UK.
Shame on us for being motivated, manipulated by that kind of pandering. I mean,
yeah. In the UK, we have what they call party political broadcasts, and each party gets to get one free of charge. They don't even have to pay for it.
Yeah.
The British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, which I'm sure you've heard of, gives them all airtime to do it free of charge, but they only get to do it once during their campaigns.
Yeah, I think it's our fault. It's not the politicians' fault. It's our fault.
Well, you're right, Pat. And I go back to everybody that complains that Alex Rodriguez makes almost $30 million a year, and is it his fault? The Yankees said they would pay him, so who wouldn't take that in their right mind? If I'm going to get $20 an hour at one job, and the same job down the road, 5 miles down the road, is going to give me $30 an hour, which one am I going to go to? So it's kind of the same thing, really.
Politicians are not the problem. We're the problem.
Yeah, I agree. And we don't get enough people out to vote, and we don't research.
And actually, we don't. Not only do we not get enough people out to vote, but we don't get enough people putting themselves forward to be politicians. And I'm not just talking at national level. I'm talking at local level as well. Where I live, we really struggle for candidates. So what happens is, and I'm not doing myself any disservice by saying this, but we end up with low quality politicians because no one will put themselves forward for it.
We get the government we deserve.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry to get onto politics.
So no, I mean, we brought it up because we thought it would be interesting to have political candidates in Blab doing a debate or even having an open forum town hall type thing. I think that would be interesting. The other day I saw Mari Smith on here doing just that. She had, I don't remember the gentleman's name, was interviewing her, and then the open seats would be people that wanted to ask her questions. And I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that with a politician. But yeah, the focus of this Blab is how to be a social business. And I think Blab is one of those outlets at this point. Blab, and maybe to a lesser extent, Periscope. I've used Periscope. I think Blab is
question about that then, Scott. How do you guys differentiate these two technologies?
Blab and Periscope?
Yes.
So Periscope, to me, is less interactive. You have to really, really pay attention to the screen while you're talking to see if anybody's asking questions or making comments. So it's not as easy to do, in my opinion. I like this format more. It's almost as though you're doing face-to-face networking, but obviously we're not face-to-face in a sense. And at the same time, we could get questions. I think if Periscope were also on desktop, because I think most people are using Blab on desktop, I think it might have a little more appeal because it'd be a little easier to manage. But there are people that are making a killing with Periscope. There was just a Periscope summit just yesterday in New York City. And I know a lot of people I'm in Connecticut. I know a lot of people from Connecticut went. So that's interesting. There's a lot of people that are doing quite well on Periscope. It's just, I guess, taking the time and doing it on a consistent basis. So I've been scheduling one every Tuesday night. I didn't do it this week because I've been sick all week. But
you think that a segmentation where one works better in one situation versus?
Yeah. There are two different use cases for them completely. And I use both. And I've used Google Hangouts on air as well. And I think that Blab lends itself in terms of similarities to Google Hangouts on air more than Periscope. And like I said, I use both of them. And how I do that is that so with Blab, I'll use it in this kind of format, like a chat format, almost like an interview, if you will, or an open forum. Where Periscope, I think, is better if you're in the field and you want to capture something as it happens. So, for instance, and giving this to in a business perspective, one of my clients is a very large wildlife charity, and they have a bunch of guys and girls who are rangers, and they go out and they manage the habitats and nature reserves. And we have this podcast series called Ranger Radio. But so what we do is, because obviously the podcasts are not live, so we record them. I normally record them on my iPhone with a little lightning Rode mic that I plug into it. Then I'll take it away, edit it up, and then we publish it. We do one once a month, and we go to a different nature reserve when we do that. But what we use Periscope for is to record, do some live behind the scenes stuff, because we've built up such a following now on the Ranger Radio series that people, and follow it avidly. And what we do is we put out on Twitter and say, right, well, today we're out at this location doing Ranger Radio. But if you want to see what we can see, we'll be doing a Periscope, so keep your eye out. And they've become quite popular too with the followers. So that's one way of doing it.
That's a great use, Paul. Great use.
Yeah, that's one use. Another use is just at a live event. You know, you might be at it could be a political event, could be a community interest thing, or it could be a music event.
I suspect that was Twitter's intent, is to make it a way for people to stream live events as they happen, news events. And obviously it's gotten to a different audience now. But hey, Gary, we have an open seat if you want to hop in. Gary Leland.
It's a much it is a different platform, and I think that the way this is here engenders more social elements to it. I mean, I watched a blab earlier because obviously the time difference is enormous where I am compared to where you guys are. And I watched a blab earlier on. I was doing a bit of work and I had it running in the background, and I thought, I'll see what's going on. And there was one blab where two of all the seats were full, and two of which were fast asleep. They were fast asleep. So there was two people talking to each other, but the camera on the other two people we were just watching. I thought, I don't get this at all. But it's the social aspect of it, I think. And I do see this taking off in a big way. I really do. And the simplicity as well. If you consider Google Hangouts on air, and I've said this on several blabs that I've been involved with before, that when I first discovered Google Hangouts on air and realized that I could use it and apply that and exploit it for my business and for my clients, when I first discovered it, I had to invest a significant amount of my time into figuring out how it works.
It's goofy,
right?
It's a goofy.
It's goofy. It's overcomplicated, and actually it's full of bugs.
Yes,
full of bugs. Even so far on down the road, it's still full of bugs. And what I found more than anything, and I'll give you two really good examples of Hangouts on air versus blab. So Google Hangouts on air, I've done lots of Hangouts with lots of different guests in the Hangout. And more often than not, when you invite someone onto a blab or a Hangout, a lot of the time it's the first time they've ever done it. Or may have not had much experience with it. And with Hangouts, you have to log on a good hour before to make sure everyone knows what they're doing. Otherwise, it's got the potential to be a huge disaster. Okay. Where with blab, yesterday I did a blab where 4 of the participants, it was the very first time they had used it, yet it went flawlessly. There was no problems. They all knew instinctively what to do because the user interface is so intuitive. And there was no dramas at all. There's a couple of issues with sound quality and all the rest of it, but you know, that's the internet for you. It's never going to be perfect. And it worked really, really well. And that is its simplicity. And the one thing that I've said over and over again as users, because I've watched lots of different users say, oh, I wish it did this, I wish it did that, I wish it did the other. What we got to be careful of is what we wish for, because if they cram too many features in, then it will get complicated. And actually, if you think about it, it's its simplicity, which is its biggest selling point, in my view.
So I have two more. So I have two situations I want to ask you about. And Scott, I hope you don't mind me asking all these questions.
No, that's what we're here for. Open forum.
I don't mean to be rude. I'm thinking in terms of webinars and training. How do you see? Yeah. Like let's start with a webinar. How would a webinar work in a blab?
You know, it's funny you said that, Pat. Yesterday, I happened to catch the tail end of a realtor's webinar. I can't remember which company it was now, but it was the tail end of it. So they had one camera, I don't know if it was an iPad or a computer pointed at the projector screen, and then a couple of seats, I would guess, of realtors that weren't in the office. They were, somewhere else. We couldn't get into the office. And I think that's one way that it can be used. Now, I don't know that I would do a traditional style webinar on here. I might use Zoom or something along those lines. Fabrizio, that was the one that was interviewing Mark the other day.
Well,
Pat,
a lot of people use GoToMeeting for webinars.
Yeah. The trouble is with GoToMeeting though, Pat, is that you can't broadcast it to a wider audience.
Yeah, I hate the technology. I think it's an antique.
I'm not so sure about that. I think that's a bit harsh. I can understand why you think that, but I suppose a lot of businesses don't want the world to see it. To be fair, they just want it for internal purposes, whether it be internal or external clients. They don't really want the whole world to see it, and I can understand that. Then again, there are situations when you do want the world to see it, and I think that one way you could do that, because obviously this technology has its limitations because of its simplicity. It is limited in some respects, but with a bit of creative thinking, you could do a general broadcast webinar. And how I would probably do it is I would have 2 laptops with 2 webcams and sign in on one laptop on a different account and on the other laptop. So I'd have 2 tiles. I would occupy 2 tiles. One tile would be on me and the other tile would be on whatever it is that I'm demonstrating, if it's a product or whatever. So that would be one way to do it. But I think you could do a webinar on here, but you just got to make sure that you think it through first and understand what it is that you're trying to get, what message it is that you're trying to get across. Don't just do it and hope for the best. Think it through first and make sure there's some structure to it.
Yeah, it will definitely require a lot of thought. And I'm not sure that I would use this format for a webinar, but I agree, Pat. It is an industry where it's inundated with webinars now, and everybody's got this free 15-minute webinar to get you to buy more webinars. And
Sherry in the comments makes a good comment, and she says that she's heard that Blab will not be making private rooms. Actually, I've heard that from the horse's mouth, actually, because I've been in on a Blab where someone from Blab was actually talking about that, and that's because they have a strategy for this platform. They're not just running with it and hoping for the best. They're thinking this thing through, and this is a social network. They want it to be social. They don't want it to be private. They want to encourage people like our friend Scott here to do regular shows, and they want the world to see it. In fact, they want to create, like we've got YouTube stars. They want to create Blab stars.
We've already got some,
and make it mainstream.
Scott, how did you at scottgumbar.com on the bottom there? How did you
there's a few different apps. This is Manicam, which seems to be the most popular one. It's MANYCAM.com.
Pat, before you invest in that software, though, you might want to just, because I was in a town hall meeting that Blab facilitated it was last week now, and they said they are working on a native lower third facility. They are working on that. How long it'll be before that it comes out, I don't know. But a lot of these, because these are webcam plugins, aren't they? Basically, Scott, and they're Scott, a bit quirky. I hear.
Yeah, have you not updated your iOS yet?
What's that?
Have you not updated? I assume since you have Manicam, you're on a. Are you on a Mac?
I'm on a Windows laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you're on a Mac, that once the new iOS came out, the update, nobody's works that it's on a Mac, from what I understand. Mine doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I have an iPad, but I have not used Blab on the iPad yet. I do this on 1 or 2 laptops.
There is one thing you want to do if you want to put advertise your web address, and actually I think it may have even been Sherry who's watching this that gave me this tip the other day. Might have been her, or it might have been someone else, so forgive me, Sherry, if I've got this wrong. But she said in your profile put your web address, and I've done exactly that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a no-brainer there.
Yeah.
Put your web everywhere you can find it.
Which I didn't do, but
I didn't until she mentioned it the other day, and I've done exactly that. So
You have a daily show, Scott, doing this, or is this?
No, I have a weekly show on Friday mornings through growthsuccessradio.com, which is my podcast site. And we interview small business owners. So I was going to ask if you guys had shows. You can tell us about it now. But so we interview small business owners, and we talk about how their failures, their successes, and so forth. So tomorrow we have a gentleman that owns a moving company, and he's getting about 90% of his business through social media. He's grown like exponentially in 2 years, so it should be pretty good. We normally do it at 10. Tomorrow it's at 9.
I'd like to listen to that. Actually, I'll subscribe to that. Have you scheduled it?
Yeah, it's scheduled 9 a.m. Eastern. So
I'm going to look at that, because I've got to say that when I first started my social media business, most of the new clients came from referrals, but actually now I'm getting more and more. I'll tell you an interesting story actually about when I was on holiday. I'm getting more and more new clients from social media. And I took my girls away on holiday this summer to the south of Spain, to a place called Marbella. Don't know if you've heard of it. Beautiful place. We had a wonderful time, and I took a lot of pictures of my daughter in the swimming pool with a GoPro camera, underwater and all that sort of stuff, and put it on my Instagram account. And a guy who I used to work with many years ago, and who is now a very, very successful businessman and owns lots of holiday resorts all over the sort of South Europe. His wife saw my pictures and said to him, "Hey, Ian, look at these pictures that Dietschy's putting up on his Instagram. Look, aren't they fantastic?" And he looked at them, and he sends me a text message via my brother to say, "Can you get in touch?" So I got in touch with him, and he says, "Look, would you meet with me? Because I've just seen your pictures on Instagram, and it's given me an idea where we might be able to do some work together." And I said to him, "Look, Ian, I don't mean any offence, but if I come and meet you and start talking business, my wife will divorce me if I do that while I'm on holiday. However, I'll get in touch with you when I get back to the UK." And yesterday, he signed me up. He paid for my flights to go out there. I'm going out there in the beginning of November, to do some work, and that was as a result of social media. Just because he saw my pictures on Instagram account. So it just goes to show you that it is possible to win business and that wasn't by anything clever. It's not on my part. It wasn't any smart business strategy. It just happened.
Now it's Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Instagram hit 400 million users. I think it was sometime.
They've overtaken Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that one. But
in terms of active users, they've overtaken
Twitter. Twitter has a lot of dead accounts. That's the only problem. But I think
it's not even just dead accounts, but passive accounts. So these are accounts where people just use them to follow people. There's no interactions with,
I think with Blab and Periscope, though, you're going to start seeing more people getting active on Twitter again.
Oh, without a doubt. My Twitter following, since I've been on Blab, I'm getting about 10 new followers a day.
Yeah. So that'll definitely happen. Hey, Gary, you haven't said anything yet, so I want to give you.
Well, I haven't had a chance to jump in. Y'all been pretty much conversation going, so I didn't want to.
Sorry,
that's
Gary,
no problem. I'm not
apologize.
Complaining. I'm just explaining. No complaining, just explaining.
Thank you,
but
sir.
y'all seem to have a lot going on here, and this is kind of my niche. I have a show I do for brick and mortar stores that are trying to learn how to get on the web and become e-commerce. I did my first e-commerce site in '96, so I've been doing it a while, and that's what my show is. My podcast is about. One of my podcasts is strictly about that. So when I saw the topic, it sounded interesting to me, so I thought I'd just jump in. I do a lot of social, but I run 24 websites, so I do all the social for my own websites. So I don't do social for other people. I kind of keep it for myself.
Okay. So you're busy. That's a lot of social media.
Yeah. Well, I have people that work for me that help.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I don't have to do it all myself. Yeah. actually brought in. Actually, I have one person that his full-time job is just to do my social all day long and stuff like that.
Nice. Awesome.
But
Pat, I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance to tell us what you do.
I have a podcast called Sales Babble. I teach selling secrets to non-sellers. Small business owners, engineers, technicians, people who have a passion about something, but they know they need to do like old-fashioned sales, like call people up, reach out to people. In fact, there's an awful lot of people who sell marketing services, marketers, for example, who are afraid to like talk to people face to face, and that's the best way to get to know your avatar. So my podcast talks about that. That's what I do. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to leverage this technology with my podcast.
What is your podcast about?
We moved our podcast show. It was a podcast, and it was just me at first, and we moved it over to this format. And I know of at least 2 others that have done the same thing. Obviously, you're going to have your. I'm not going to go back and edit it. I just don't have the time to do it, and I don't have anybody on my staff right now that will do it. But
You don't need to, though, do you?
No, I don't think you do. I think the mistakes and the personalities and everything, I think it shines through. I don't think it...
Oh, totally. Totally. That's one of the appeals of these types of podcasts is actually that they're raw, they're not slick, they're not polished.
Right.
And actually, if you look at some of the most successful podcast channels on iTunes right now, there's one called, and I found out about this from Blab the other day. I was watching a Blab, and they started recording their podcast show using Blab, which they'd never done before. They normally used to do it, funnily enough, Pat, they used to do it using GoToMeeting, and they just record the audio from it. But it's called Social Pros. Look that up.
I've heard of Social Pros, yeah.
And yeah, now they don't use any. I mean, you'll notice the microphone that I'm using and the microphone that Pat's got there. These are professional microphones. Those guys don't even use pro microphones. They were just using their
laptop.
Apple.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or that, yeah.
And it's actually the rawness of that is the appeal, because it's honest. And, if you make a mistake, just correct yourself and move on. No one gives a shit.
Yeah, I've moved all my podcast interview shows to this forum. This is where I do my interviews now. Then I take that feed and edit it up. I like to edit up and have a clean show. I add my intro to it, my outro to it. I do commercials in my shows. So I add my commercials. I think we're about ready to have our iPad. We put a soundboard on my iPad, and we're going to plug that into the mixer and probably start adding that. So we go ahead and play the intro when the show starts, do the interview, and say, now for a word from our sponsor, and then I'll play the commercial. Then we'll come back and then do the outro. But that's my goal, is to get it so I don't have to take it into GarageBand or anything like that when I get through. But at the moment...
Are you a Mac user, Gary?
Yeah. I have a Mac and a PC.
What Mac do you use?
MacBook Pro.
Right, because there's an app called, which I use, if you didn't want to do that. And Scott, your point about editing, while I completely agree with you, you don't need to edit it. If you did want to, it doesn't need to be time consuming or a time suck, because there's an app I use called Twisted Wave Lite. Okay, and when you finish your Blab, obviously it's going to send you a video file and an audio file.
Right.
And if you just import that audio file into Twisted Wave Lite, you can literally drop in pre-show jingles, whatever it is that you want to do.
You can do that with GarageBand. It's the same thing.
But same thing. So easy.
In GarageBand, I just leave my intro and outro, my commercials where they are. Then I just drop the show into the lower row.
Yeah.
Cut out the slots, move the commercials to the slot, raise it up so the intro and outro's on the end. It takes about 4 minutes to do a show.
It's so easy, isn't it?
Yeah. I have Audacity. You could do the same thing with Audacity.
Audacity, same thing.
Same thing for PC or Mac.
Cherie asked, can you edit?
But it is the rawness.
So the nice thing is, Cherie, the comments on the right side of the screen don't show up in the video. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
The good thing about these comments for shows, though, if you're doing an interview show, A lot of times, you're talking to your interviewee, and you've got a kind of tunnel vision. You know where you want to go, or you have questions you want to ask. These guys here on the right here are giving you so much input. Sometimes you'll see a question come up that you missed from what the interviewee said, and you'll go, "Oh yeah, that's a great question." So I think the quality of my interviews have gone up really big now that people are helping me ask questions. Because mine are one-on-one interviews. I don't let people come in for my interview shows. But the input I get from the right-hand bar here is way better than just doing it on my own.
And that's definitely happened on my last show last week on Friday. People were asking questions to the guests. So it was great. So if everybody that's in here, if you do want to ask a question, I'm going to ask for 2 favors. If you do want to ask for a question,
well, I've got a question for Pat. I've got a question for Pat if he doesn't mind. And I'm going to have to go in.
Flash Q. If you go a question, this way it's highlighted as a question. And also, if you could just tell a little birdie, I see some of you did, so I appreciate that, Brian and Pat. But if you could tell a little birdie, that would be great. We'll get some more people in here and get some more questions.
Yeah,
so Paul, you saw a question?
I have a question for Pat, and then I'm going to have to go because my daughter will come in from school in a minute, and it'll get impossible. But you said you wanted to discover how you might be able to leverage Blab for your own podcast show. What type of podcast show do you have, Pat?
It's about sales. It's about
sales.
It's about traditional sales.
So is it so would you see your podcast show about what sales techniques, closing, and all that sort of stuff?
Right, qualifying clients, interviewing them.
Well, this is a perfect platform for that. Perfect platform for that. So if you've got a couple of people that you know in your industry who are closers, lead generation experts, people who have success in your industry, get them on as guests and talk about it.
That's what I do now. That's what I mostly interview, not necessarily always. So sometimes I just speak for 10 or 15 minutes, but most of my podcasts are half an hour or less, and it's an interview of an expert.
But what you could do is if you could almost use it as like a live brainstorm, so you get 2 or 3 of your contemporaries in the same blab together and just talk about what you all do best, as if you were in the same room enjoying a cup of coffee and just. I heard this expression for the first time on Blab the other day. I forget who it was that said it, but shooting the shit, but do it live.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought using it as a. I don't know. I've only been on this thing for a week, so I've been trying.
Yeah. And you've got to get your confidence with it, haven't you? You have got to get confidence. I will say this though, Pat. I think you might need to adjust your broadband. I don't know what your broadband setting is, but if you're going to do this as a show, you have a lot of lag on your end. You do too, actually.
Okay, that's funny because I thought it was you, Paul. But
maybe it's internet. Maybe it's the internet. I don't know. But very high-speed broadband connection.
Under the ocean, you never know.
I don't think it's on my side. I think it's on your side, Paul.
Yeah, I would agree.
Maybe it's the internet. Yeah.
Matt, I will tell you, one of the things that'll help is doing what you just did in here is jumping on other blabs, because that helps you build up a following pretty quickly. Fabrizio, thanks for, I hope I'm saying it right. Thanks for joining. So Fabrizio had the privilege of interviewing Mari Smith a few days ago, and I actually tried to ask a question, but it was the first day I installed Manicam, and I think I messed up my mic at that point.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah, I had to kick you out because your audio wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And there was a load of queue of people. I had 212 people on there all at once.
Mari Smith, who wouldn't want to ask a question? But how did you manage to pull that off?
Well, I've known her for a while, so yeah. So I mean, I work in this. I sell private jets to the richest people in the world. So my network is kind of a bit different to most people. So yeah, So that's how I got her in. And I've got a few other people lined up as well.
Wow. Yeah, you got it. So are those scheduled out?
I'm in the process of getting them organized right now, but I'm going to start doing a blab tomorrow called Airplane Talk. So,
are you in Farnborough by any chance?
No, I'm near Manchester.
Oh, I'm from Manchester.
In
Whereabouts?
Chorley, Lancashire.
Chorley, yeah. I grew up in Whitefield.
Ah, okay. Okay, it's not too far from here, yeah.
And I live right now, literally, on final approach to Farnborough. That's why I asked
Okay,
you.
yeah, I come down now and again to Farnborough when we've got clients coming in that we need to see that want to buy a new plane or get rid of the one they've got. Yeah.
That's it. Anyway, nice to meet you. I'm going to have to because my daughter's coming in from school and you don't want to hear her shouting and screaming. She's got a play date. So nice to meet you all.
Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
Take care.
All the best. Thanks for having me, Scott. Cheers.
Careful.
No problem. So we're going to have another open seat if anybody wants to jump in.
And I'm going to jump
Oh.
out here. This has been really, really interesting, though, Scott. I really appreciate you hosting this. This has been very, very. I have a lot to think about.
Yeah, I was listening yesterday. Someone was mentioning there's a big event going to be going on in New York over the weekend, and Blab's going to be there. And apparently, the people on Blab next week will almost like double or triple because of this event in New York.
Oh, awesome! I know they had the Periscope Summit yesterday in New York City, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Pat. I'm going to try to figure out a schedule. Where are you located, by the way?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay, so not too far from me.
Nope.
Relatively.
Nope.
But yeah, so I'm going to do this on a regular basis. I just haven't figured out the time slot. I was going to try to do it last night, but like I said, I was sick. I was even thinking about canceling today. I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, I'll figure out a schedule. So I followed you. If everybody in this room would follow everybody, if you go to the top of your screen there, you see all the different icons. You can follow everybody up there. It's a great way to build your community fairly rapidly on here. So definitely do that.
I've followed everybody who's been chatting here today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We will talk again, Pat.
I'm wondering somehow if I could teach a topic here, if I can use it as a way to grow my email list. That's another thought that I've been having.
You'd have to drive them to something, but yes, you could.
Yeah, you'd probably have to offer them something for free.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a great lead magnet.
There you go. Yeah, so send them to that link.
I like what you're doing here with Minicamp. Actually, somebody told me about that. I need to dig into that. You guys have been great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat.
See you, Pat.
Bye-bye.
So we have 2 open seats. If anybody wants to jump in, please feel free to jump in. So Fabrizio, so you sell private jets.
Yeah, airliners as well. We delve both in the commercial airline market and also in the private jet market.
So what drives you to be on Blab then?
Well, what drives me here is I'm a big believer in social media as a form of getting the word out there. I mean, I do a lot on LinkedIn. I do a lot of blogging on LinkedIn about 2-3 times a week about aviation. And as a result of that, I get a lot of people contact me. I've been in the press all over the place. I've even had 2 billionaires ring me up as a result of reading the blog. So I've been doing a podcast for a while now, and it was on Podomatic. And then I shifted it. I started publishing it on YouTube. And then a friend of mine rang me about a couple of weeks ago and mentioned Blab. So you got to get on Blab, and because we've moved our podcast to Blab. I said, okay. So I got on and I started interacting with a few people and seeing how it works and trying to figure out how I could use it. So I had Mari scheduled and we were going to do the interview on Skype. And then when I saw how this worked, I thought, wait a minute, if we do it on Blab, it's going to be a lot more impactful. So I asked if she was up for it. She said, yeah, let's do a Blab. And so then I had the idea of doing a show about aircraft. So we're going to start that tomorrow, and we'll do once a week for about an hour. It's just going to be airplane talk. So come on and just ask questions about airplanes and we'll answer. And yeah.
Fabrizio, are you familiar with Conklin and DeDecker here in the United States?
Yeah, I know Conklin and DeDecker, yep.
Okay, great. I have attended some of their conferences, and this would be cutting edge because I think that they have really fallen short in when they're teaching small aircraft companies about social media. I think that they're way off.
Well, I mean, I am one of the very few that uses social media, in particular in the private jet space. Everybody's very snobby and everybody thinks that high net worth individuals do not go online, but they're wrong. Because 2 podcasts I did recently, one was a guy who's an absolute expert with family offices, and he deals with family offices and he does business, and he's a big social media guy. And he's saying, I've had 68 billionaires ring me up and do business with me because of my social media presence. This guy called Richard C. Wilson. You can check him out. And I had him on the show the other week. And in fact, I'm talking to him again tomorrow, and I'll probably do a blab with him next week. He's very clever. So these people are out there. And, you know, we've been out and we did the usual print advertising, and we had, it was the NBA, is the biggest private jet air show in the world, and it's once a year, and they do it Orlando or Las Vegas. This year it's in Las Vegas, and we advertised in one of the magazines there, and the page 2 and 3, it cost us about $6,000-7,000. We had not one phone call, not one email. People aren't reading magazines anymore. I mean, I get stacks of free magazines sent to me every week about airplanes, but I use databases and I use the internet. And a lot of these high net worth individuals, which are very busy people, they're very careful the way they use their time, which is why they've got a lot of money. They don't use magazines because it takes time to get information out of a magazine. But if you're using a computer or a smartphone or an iPad, it takes 5 seconds. So they are out there. And if you are dealing in the luxury market and whatever, the internet is a great way to get to them at a cost which is just your time, really, because you don't have to go out there and advertise if you're doing the right thing. And what these people are after is they're after information, and they want to find someone that's an expert, that's got the right information, and that's going to sell them the right package, because it's not just the plane. There's a whole thing around the airplane as well. Like I always say to people,
social badly though, it's going to represent poorly on your product.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Do it right. If you're going to do it,
yeah, you've got to do it right, which doesn't mean it has to be perfect and you spend thousands of dollars to get stuff edited and whatever. Because at the end of the day, people are after content. They're after valuable content. They're after people they can trust and people that know their stuff. And so I think Blab is a great platform for what I'm doing. I mean, I haven't sold a plane through Blab yet, but it's definitely helping to get the word out there. And we'll see how it goes.
My husband is in the airplane industry.
Okay, what does he do?
He's a pilot.
Okay, yeah, I'm a pilot as well. I used to fly Boeing 737s. Then I decided that selling planes was probably more lucrative.
You know, it probably is, but it's farther and fewer between. He flies 747s.
Okay, that's good.
It's a good aircraft.
Yeah, well, Boeings are good. Yeah. Mind you, I did a post today on LinkedIn about the 787, which is supposed to have very good air system, but there's something coming out now that pilots are being poisoned in the cockpit due to some stuff that's coming off the windshield. I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday, and he's been off sick for a month now. So I did a thing on LinkedIn, which over 100 people have read it now. I only published it a couple of hours ago, so that should be trending.
The airline industry is a very unique niche, and I know that even though we're all in marketing in some way, shape, or form, or social, that we're in line. This is a cutting-edge technology, but app, and even very few people within our industries know about this. So how are you going to get the word out to the airline industry, which is already very, very specialized, to get them here?
Well, you know, we've got the Twitter feed, we've got LinkedIn, we've got YouTube. So as long as what you do on here then gets rebroadcast on the other platforms. I mean, you know that when you do a blab, this gets posted to you about half an hour later. You've got video version and you've got audio version. As you were discussing before, you do a little bit of an edit before and after, you know, stuff, and then load it onto YouTube, load it onto a platform for podcasting, and then maybe do a blog about it, and then embed the video in there and mention Blab in the thing with the times that you're doing your Blab, and just keep blasting it out there. I mean, there aren't many people on Blab right now. I mean, I think the average Blab has got maybe 20 people on it, maybe less than that. When we had Mari Smith, on the other night, we had 212 people on there, but that's because she is who she is. So I think Blab's it's very early days, because it's only been out for 4 months or something like that. But you wait another 3-4 months, and once the word starts getting out there, there'll be a lot of people on it, because it's great. I call it LinkedIn Live. That's my definition of it.
Fabrizio, you raise a really valid point, and I think one thing that I'm doing is right now I'm doing a social selling course on Blab, and then I'm taking the course content and I'm putting it on LinkedIn.
Yep,
and I'm
good
putting
idea.
it in a weekly series
Yeah.
so that people can learn as they progress.
Yeah.
But we're going a little deeper. We're actually taking people's LinkedIn profiles and we're working through it directly, and we're getting them to, to an all-star status, and then we're showing them how to apply those skills to social selling with LinkedIn. And
Well, can I just say one thing with LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Blab should have some form of thing where you're linked to LinkedIn as well as Twitter.
It's coming.
It's coming. Okay.
Right. From what I understand is right now they're really trying to keep a low footprint. I actually talked to some of the developers at Blab recently, and they're in beta mode. They're rolling it out very, initially they were being aggressive about the rollout of iterations, but now they're slowing down, and they're not, you're going to see more social sharing buttons capable, but right now they're just sticking to Twitter for now, but I'm sure you're going to see the other stuff come up. And it doesn't take, to be honest with you, it doesn't take very much effort on my part to put it on other platforms.
No, it's pretty simple for sure. Just a little housekeeping. If everybody that came in, if you could just tell a little bird on the left side of the screen, that would be awesome. Also, if you have any questions, type them in the chat with the /Q in front of it. We'll be able to see it a lot easier. And I would encourage everybody to follow. You see at the top of your screen, there's a long list of people that are in here now. If you can follow everybody up there. You have to do it one at a time. I apologize for that. But I would definitely suggest that. It's common courtesy to follow back. So hopefully everybody does that. And then you're building an audience for whatever time, whenever you're going to blab. And that's the end goal there. Build an audience and then have something to talk about, which is why we're here. How to become a social business. So, Brian, you haven't had a lot of chance to talk, so why don't you tell us about what you do besides do you do anything else besides the social selling, or?
Yeah, so my main focus is LinkedIn. I've been doing social media strategies for a while now. My previous experience was in SEO, so I did SEO for about 8 years, and prior to that I worked in the print industry. So kind of have an evolving background that evolved into this. I went kind of from an analog world to a digital world, so I kind of grew through those generations. But it's interesting to see.
You have a really well-rounded career.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that people are how people are using Blab. There are some really intelligent people that are doing the right things on Blab, but there is also a lot of noise in here right now, and it's sad to see it in the early stages, and I hope that Blab could do a better job of formalizing that a little bit, because I think this has huge potential. I think Hangouts on Air has really missed the boat of taking this kind of opportunity, and I think Periscope is a little narcissistic for my liking. I don't really get any value out of Periscope. I find that this is a lot more authentic. You get to know the person. You get, I've made friends on Blab. I've made a lot of different connections all over the world from Blab. You were saying earlier about your following on Twitter exploding. The reason why it's exploding is because you're being authentic and you're building relationships on this platform, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And Fabrizio, I will be shocked if you don't sell a plane on Blab.
I would be too.
It's going to happen.
And you can, especially in your industry, get out there and be a leading edge teacher to them, to show these airliners and these other companies that are coming to, like the Conklin and DeDecker 2-day seminar. They are definitely not versed in this area at all.
Well, the interesting thing is when people think airplanes, they think super high tech, but in reality, the business side of aviation is not high tech at all. I mean, very few airlines have really embraced the whole social media. I think KLM is probably the only airline that is doing something decent with social media, with all their videos of the pilots flying and loading the food and doing stuff. And then there was that other company up in Canada that did that thing at Christmas time with the gift WestJet. I thought that was very clever. They had millions and millions of people watch that. But they're the only two airlines that understood how to work it. In the private jet space, they haven't got a clue. No one's got a clue. And when I say I spend a lot of time on social media, people laugh at me. But, you know, we're doing deals as a result of that. So, I mean, I've been featured in so many media outlets this year. I mean, I had a guy ring me up the other day from Bloomberg in India. He wanted to do a whole feature about business jet airports in India, and I'm featured in that. And then the next day I was on the phone to this guy in India, and he said, oh, I saw you in the paper yesterday in Mumbai.
Oh, we lost Brian.
Whoops. I think this is going to be a great way for some really niche areas to get out there and make information more well known about their industry. And the airline industry, there's so much opportunity. So when I saw you a couple days ago, I think, and we started following each other, I'm glad to see you here today, because I didn't know quite what in the airline industry you did. So what aircraft do you sell?
Well, we sell everything, but we tend to specialize on the high end. So when we talk private jets, we tend to concentrate on the mid-size cabin up. And then with the airliners, we do 737s, and that's Airbus 320s, and then the 74s and the 777s and the larger ones. And then we do crossover situations where we just recently sold a Boeing 777 to an ultra high net worth individual. The aircraft is currently in Texas being turned into a flying house, as I call it. He's having bedroom, gym, bathroom, you name it.
Do you have any access to the Dreamliner, do you? Because we'd love to do some charter opportunities with the Dreamliner.
Well, the Dreamliner is got a lot of problems. And it is a dream, but it's a nightmare more than a dream for Boeing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the next scandal that's about to hit the press probably in the next few days is this problem in the cockpit with the windshield kicking off this dust, which is causing problems with the. I mean, this friend of mine is in serious health hazard right now. He's been to hospital a few times. He's been off flying for a month now. Boeing have been quiet about it. The airline he works for is being quiet about it. I blogged about this situation today without mentioning the airline or this friend of mine, but it's a problem out there, as well as a myriad of other problems that the 787 is having. So I'm not quite, unfortunately, Boeing have made a few mistakes on this 787. They haven't quite got it right. And it's sad to say that, because I love Boeing aircraft, and I've spent like 6,000 hours of my life flying Boeings. So, you know, but you know, you've got to be realistic here, and there's something wrong there with that aircraft.
Scott, I don't want us to hijack your blab here.
That might be a poor choice of words right now, but because I mean, you guys are talking about it's happening on social media, and you're seeing how just conversating on or having a conversation on Blab is, you know, potentially creating some business here. And it's not a business that's easily created. I'm sure Fabrizio can tell you, selling a plane is probably not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it's a very difficult business. There are a lot of time wasters. I'd say 99.9% of people that contact me are time wasters. Why? I have no clue. It's just the way it is, and it always has been. So really the name of the game is recognizing the time wasters as soon as possible, so you don't end up dragging on for 3 months and then seeing no money at the end of it.
So Brian mentioned something interesting before he jumped off. Having this lead to another channel. So it might lead back to your blog, might lead back to a webinar, it might lead back to one of your social profiles. You know, and that I think is also important to mention, that one channel alone isn't going to do it for you.
Exactly.
We call it in our industry. And by the way, Stephen just joined us, and it looks like Stephen's kind of the Facebook expert in the group here. But in our industry, you got to use different channels. You got to remarket. Even Google is making a big push for remarketing now through their AdWords platform. So Blab is just one channel, and you should be utilizing the channels that are most appropriate for your business. And you know, it's going to be different for every business. Not every business can use all channels, but Blab is one platform that I think a lot of businesses will be able to use for sure.
But you also learn a lot on Blab. I mean, yesterday evening, my time, there was this guy on here who's a voice coach. And he was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I sat there for about an hour listening to this guy. Then I went in and was chatting to him and asking for some advice and that. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So it's not only a platform to promote yourself, it's also a platform to even just sit on here and listen and learn.
Yep, I've done that.
So what are some of the ways that you are pointing people from your blab back to your your website, or getting them to direct to your newsletter or sign up for a class? Are you doing that?
I'm using the Manicam here. Looks like Steven's using, I'm not sure if it's Manicam, but he's using something. But a lot of people that talk will also put links to different medium on the internet in the chat. So as they're talking, they'll say, oh, and here's a link to that. And they'll place it in the chat, because that's probably the best way, honestly. And it automatically makes it a hyperlink. So that's even easier.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, because I also do public speaking as well as aircraft sales. So I'm not going to go and put a banner below here, because my company's called Tyrus Wings, which is the aviation company. But then I also do public speaking. So if anybody is interested, what I do is I just post on the side here. If they want to read my LinkedIn blog, or if you just Google my name, it'll come. My LinkedIn profile is usually the top thing that comes up. And then you go on LinkedIn and you see the rest of the stuff. And conversations just really happen on here.
It's a great way to get your personal brand. So
yeah.
Fabrizio, I think this is awesome, because you may not stay with that company forever. You may decide...
Well, it's my company, so...
Oh, well, then you will.
So, yeah.
But personal branding, that's another good point, Cherie. Personal branding is huge, because people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that's it.
Exactly.
You know? So Stephen, tell us about you.
Well, I do kind of Facebook coaching, kind of high-end coaching, $2,000 up to $10,000. And it's kind of working well for this, for the blab, because people are really getting to know you. Just like kind of Fabrizio was saying, you can jump on a blab, or you can join in a blab as well. And people really get to, obviously, to see your face. And when somebody can see your eyes and the way you're talking, just your kind of emotions involved in that as well, that's when they really get to know you as a person. And if people are seeing you more and more, as they see you more and more on your blabs, they'll get to know you better, and they'll get to build up that trust for you as well. So I think this is an ideal platform for anybody coaching, and even if you're doing kind of selling like Fabrizio as well, I think you will definitely sell a plane. There's going to be somebody kind of watching and saying, I want a private jet. So I can imagine
I think you've got to look at it and figure out, now, how can I make this work for me?
Yeah.
And if you sort of think laterally, you'll find a way.
I think the best thing on Blab is just to be yourself. And when you're being yourself and you're being authentic, you're not trying to sell, you're not trying to do all that shit as well. You're just being yourself, and you're trying to help other people at the same time, giving great content and giving people people good feedback as well for what they want to do. If you're helping other people, that's when things are really going to start to happen for you. And I see Blab, it's just going to explode in the next couple of months. I can see it.
It will.
The sales are going to be a byproduct of you being authentic and you being genuine and being here and being part of the community and saying smart things. Also, if we were all sitting here brushing our teeth or watching the television, I saw this. I could not believe it on Blab last night. I'm going through the different forums that are available. Yeah. And I see one, the title sounded interesting, and I logged in, and it was 4 millennials sitting around doing nothing, brushing their teeth, watching television, another screen. Somebody was making something to eat.
Yeah. As you said before, there's a lot of people wasting time. There were 2 guys playing the guitar the other evening, and they were just mucking around on their guitars and trying to play together. And it's interesting to just jump on and see who's doing what. And then you soon learn and find out who are the smart ones and who are the time wasters. And then you start following the smart ones. Because, I mean, I think one of the great things here is I can sit on here and hear people from other industries doing stuff. And then I can think, wait a minute, I can take that, what Sherry's doing, and bring it into my business. And then maybe I can give some advice to somebody. They can say, oh, that's a good idea what Fabrizio's doing. Why I can apply that in my business. And that's great. That mastermind opportunity that Blab offers is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
We have played around with doing a mastermind on here, and the challenge that I find with some of my clients is some of the information we want to talk about is proprietary, and now that we're learning that Blab is not going to do private sessions, we need to find another way to do this. But I love this forum much better than I love a Google Hangout. I haven't used Zoom yet, but that's on my list to go out and check out.
I've used Zoom, and as a matter of fact, I'm in a mastermind group. We call it peer advisory, but it's we almost always use Zoom. We meet once a quarter in person, but other than that, we use Zoom. So Zoom might be the way to go for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and it's pretty affordable. They give you, it's free for 40 minutes, then they cut you off. So if you're going to go longer than 40 minutes, I think it's $10 a month. So it's just not much at all.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Well, I mean, I use Skype video a lot.
There's the other option, Skype.
Yeah. I mean, with
Skype
clients.
I find that there's problems with sound. There's problems with video more often than not.
Well, it depends. I mean, was it a premium thing on Skype that I do? But I mean, my business partner's in Florida and I'm in the UK. So we communicate on Skype video every single day. And if we're doing a call with somebody, we bring them in, hopefully on video if they're on their computer. Otherwise, we bring them in via phone. But we call them on Skype. And we do the 3-way or 4-way call. And that's how we do most of our business. I mean, when it's necessary, we jump on a plane and we go for a face-to-face meeting. But a lot of this business that we do can actually be done through Skype. So Skype for me is a fundamental tool.
Are you coming? Are there major trade shows in the airline industry that you're attending?
Yeah, there's a few I go to. Yeah, I go to obviously the NBAA, which is going to be on in November in Las Vegas. I go to the eBase, which is the big business jet show in Geneva in May. I've been to the one in Brazil, but that was a bit of a waste of time. There's one in April in Shanghai. And there's a few airline conferences as well. And then I tend to go to other types of conferences like the yacht shows, luxury.
This is a really great opportunity that I'm talking to some of my clients with, because what I do is marketing, advertising, and PR. But some of my clients who are in niche businesses like yours, I'm starting to get them prepared here in Blab now, so that in a few months when they're there, they can pull aside one of the speakers, or if they are the speaker, find somebody to interview them and talk about what's going on at the conference and talk about their participation in the conference and what are some of the leading edge things going on at their conference. I think this is going to be a really fabulous way to easily communicate to all of our audiences who are interested in that vertical or in any vertical, you know?
Yeah, with conferences though, you've got to be careful, because last year I went all the way to South Africa, to Cape Town, to a mining conference. Because looking at the industry, I thought, well, these guys, they use planes. I may pick up a client. But I had no appointments or anything. I went down there. I walked around for 3 days. I had one meeting with a guy that ran a diamond company, but nothing came of it. So I think with conferences, you've got to be careful. I think you've got to sort of schedule before you go. And some of the conferences now are getting quite savvy, where they've got systems where you can log on before you go and see who else is going to be there, and then interact with them before you go, and then end up booking in a number of meetings before you actually go. So I think you've got to be careful with conferences. Make sure that you've already got some prearranged meetings before you go, because it could turn into a waste of time and waste of money.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If you're going and you have the opportunity, I think that it's a great way to socially communicate what you're doing out there. I didn't know about Social Boom, and that happened, what was it, last weekend in Chicago? And boy, I wish that I would have known, because I would have loved to attend.
Wow. Yeah, and you're right. This is a great way. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to an old friend of mine who moved to Florida, because I'm in Connecticut. He's down in Florida. I don't know if he's still on. But anyway, he was on a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about the Florida podcast. I'm going to mess up the name, but anyway, they have a big convention next week, or I think it's this weekend. He was saying, and it's a good way to promote those events if you're going to have them. So that's definitely a good point. So David, thanks for joining us. Everybody that's in here, Florida Blog Conference. There he is, JP Design Theory. If you haven't already, please tell a little birdie on the left side of your screen, let everybody know we're in here talking about social business, how to become a social business, and any tips we can have. We have some interesting, well, we have Fabrizio who sells airplanes, and he's using it, so that's awesome. And we have Cherie, who sounds like you do mostly PR and maybe some traditional
Marketing, overreaching.
Okay. And David, what do you do?
I do social media and IT consultancy in Ireland. I'm just about 40 miles outside Dublin. And I just decided to jump into this conversation here because I think Blab is a fantastic outlet for meeting new people. I myself have got a disability. I've got cerebral palsy. And I find that video conferencing is really good because it means I have to leave my house less often. I don't have to get to clients, but I can actually get to meet great new people a lot easier.
Excellent point, David, for sure.
I think, and certainly it's given me a lot more confidence because for years I wanted to do YouTube videos, like using my tips and sharing my knowledge, and I was very self-conscious of my voice and my accent and whatever else. But now with Blab, I don't have to listen to myself back. I just say it once, and I have a good sense of humor about my disability, which is good. But I am, so I think that's a good way to utilize Blab and get out there. I just thought I'd add that Tubman's word in.
I definitely agree, David. And what I find with a lot of people that are in, because I'm also in marketing, digital marketing, and what I find is a lot of people doing digital marketing are introverts. I'm somewhat of an introvert. I'm trying to break that a little bit. But I actually just did a short video the other day about how to get out of your comfort zone and start talking to people more. And getting on video was a big deal for me. But you're right. It makes it a little bit easier. I've been doing videos now for a little while to market because, as everybody knows, if you're doing marketing, video is the way to go. And my own testing shows that video gets about 10 times the reach on Facebook than anything else. And then you combine that with Facebook, YouTube, and everything else. It's that's a huge reach. And so I knew I had to do it. This just makes it a lot easier. Thanks for Fabrizio for joining us. Fabrizio is an awesome guy that he knows some people. I mentioned it earlier. He interviewed Mari Smith, the queen of Facebook, earlier this week. So that's awesome. So if you ever see him create a show, definitely check that out. As I'm sitting here, so if you have Blab notifications turned on, you get notifications when the show has been scheduled or went live. And I'm not sure if this is scheduled or live, but it says Tyler Anderson is interviewing Lewis Howes. Lewis, if you're not familiar with Lewis Howes, he's a pretty well-known guy in the industry as well. So some of those names are coming in now to Blab, so that's awesome. So we do have an open seat if anybody wants to jump in. Gene, if you're still on the call, if you want to jump in, if you're still on the Blab, if you want to jump in, feel free to tell us about the Florida podcast conference. That'd be awesome to hear about that. Cherie, I see your mouth is moving, but I don't hear anything. I don't know if your mic is off.
I did turn it off. There was some Sorry.
That's okay.
I did see Paul is back in the feed. So, Paul, if you want your seat back.
Paul, if you want to come back in, feel free. So, David, what kind of businesses do you work with?
I work with the local Chamber of Commerce and a couple of local solicitors and a lot of startup businesses. Try and get them online, teach them how to use WordPress, social media, and stuff like that. So I haven't made a breakthrough into any, big business like probably had there earlier on, but hopefully one day, you know, one step at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's right.
You know?
Right. So this is obviously in beta. If you look at the very top left of your screen, you see Blab is still in beta.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did already or if they have one coming out. Oh, Roberto, we've talked before on here too. So Roberto, there's an open seat if you want to jump in. He's another social media guy. I think he focuses on YouTube, but good guy. It is still in beta, so obviously there will be a lot of improvements down the road.
Yeah, I think it's there certainly a few improvements I'd like to see made to it, but so far I'm really liking it, and you can see the improvements day by day that seem to be coming into it, you know.
Yeah. Awesome, David. Again, guys, I have one open seat. If anybody wants to jump in, we're going on an hour and a half here, so I'll probably end it soon. But if anybody wants to jump in and make some comments, I will try to schedule this, and maybe I'll stick with this time. It seems like it did pretty well. So Thursday at 10 a.m. I don't think that'll conflict with anything for me, so I think we'll stick with that time. Edward, all right, Edward is jumping in.
Hello.
Hi.
Evan, we talked before. Edward, how are you?
Great.
So, Edward, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am a business guy who likes media, sports, and basically doing all things marketing and sales.
Okay.
Awesome. How long have you been on Blab? I haven't looked.
One day.
Oh, you're new to Blab.
Good.
So let me see. I don't know how many days it's been now, but
How did you find out about Blab?
I found out through friends.
Great. I think Roberto Blake has made a really good comment that it is going to change the marketplace. It's going to change the game. This is more than just social media. This is social communication. Right now, Scott, you have brought together a community of individuals who we all come from different areas, but for sure we've all found one thing in common, and that's, in social communication.
yep, different countries, different backgrounds, all kinds of different things here. So it's really cool. You're right. It brings, now he might just land a client in the UK. I don't know.
That's right.
It's my first day on Blab, and I'm loving it.
Are you hooked yet?
I'm already hooked. I'm going to start using this.
I think that's the problem. And Paul mentioned it earlier, where I'll have Blab on in the background and just listen. But then I'm even forced to kind of go look to see if anybody's said hi to me or asked to join or whatever. It can be addictive. But so Edward, you said one day, and I looked at mine to see. It's been 24 days, and I'm kind of like the veteran of the Blab now, just after not even 4 weeks yet. So the one day is nothing. When this thing really takes off, you'll be the veteran. You'll be the expert.
Yeah.
So it'll be it's a long way to go, but it'll be a fun ride.
Paul, I see you're back on. Do you want your seat? I'd be happy to jump off for you to get back on. Oh, thanks.
I'm going to jump off now, guys.
Paul is a leading edge. He's in politics in the UK, and he has got this dialed in. So I'm happy that he said that. But I've really, really enjoyed a lot of the things that I've learned from him.
Thanks, Edward, for joining us. If Evan said, I'm sorry, I thought it was Edward that jumped off. Thanks, Dave, for joining us. So I see, Evan makes a good point. You don't need mobile phones anymore, although people are using mobile phones. They're using Blab on the mobile phones. The show I did last Friday, I have a regular show on Friday mornings. Our guests thought that the show was going to be at 1 p.m. and it was actually at 10 a.m. So she had to use her mobile phone. So she pulled over to the side of the road. That's a smart thing to do, right? She's on her mobile phone, and the cops came up to the car while she was parked on the side of the road. It was great. But she said, no, I'm okay. She put the phone up to the cops. She said, oh, okay, thanks. But it's funny. Yeah, you're right. You don't need mobile phones anymore, but people are going to do it from their mobile phones still, I think.
I was on my way back from a meeting, and I literally thought, oh, there's a blab that I wanted to listen to. And what I didn't realize is that it hooked into my stereo system and was playing the audio part of the blab through my car. It was kind of
awesome
and good interesting. Yeah. So what area of marketing are you in?
Pretty much everything. So I forget who it was now. I think it was well, I don't remember who it was, but they started out with SEO, and I do SEO, and it's crazy how much SEO has evolved. And I was going to mention that to him, but he jumped off too quick. It's evolved so much that Google is, I jokingly call it Skynet now, because their algorithms are so smart now. They know what they really know what people are looking for now. And that's why I tell people all the time, don't develop content for Google, develop content for people, and Google will recognize that. And then people will come to your site. So that's part of what I do. I have a lot of social media marketing. I actually just came back from Google last week. I was at Google headquarters last week for their agency day. I'm also a certified partner with AdWords and analytics.
How do you think this is going to be changing in all of those platforms?
Well, I'd be curious. So far, the theory is either Facebook or LinkedIn is going to buy it. But I know from talking to someone else that Facebook has a platform that they seem to like called Shindig. It's pretty private right now, but I don't know if it'll stay that way. So they may just say, all right, we're going to buy Shindig and we'll compete with Blab that way, which is, that's what these guys do now.
Facebook also has another one, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. And you have to be pretty much a superstar. So if you know Brian Fanzo, he's not even able to get on the Facebook version. It starts with an M, and I can't think of it right now.
No, I'm not sure. Haven't heard that one. Mentions? The advertise says mentions.
Yes, thank you.
Is that David?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay. So David says,
David
says mentions, right. So that's interesting. I hadn't heard of that one before.
You have to be a superstar, and I don't know, if you have to be George Clooney or who you have to be, but it's only open to a very, very niche area of people who have one. So, David's coming back on.
Just me again. Yeah, Facebook mentions has been around for a couple of weeks now, and it seems to be very elite. I watched one with a couple of social media speakers in the last couple of weeks, and it seems to be live, but then it records it onto your profile as well.
So, who is RB? Sorry, mine shows the username, not the name. But anyway, RB5235 makes a good point too. But so let me. Paul says hi, David.
Hey, Paul,
one of the things that I do see with Facebook as a problem, I don't know if you call it a problem, but that I think they should try to come up with a solution. And I know they sort of have it, but they're not doing it. Is when you post a video to YouTube, it stays there on your YouTube channel. And it's kind of static. It doesn't really move around. When you post that video to Facebook, it moves down your timeline unless you pin it. So it moves down your timeline and it becomes less and less relevant. Now I know they have the video page, but how many people really go to the video page? So I wonder, or the video tab, I should say. So I wonder if that's something that Facebook could improve on, because I know again, for my own testing, if you put a video on YouTube, on Facebook, sorry, it does get, for me, it gets about 10 times the engagement of anything else I post, whether it's image, whether it's just plain text, blog post, whatever it is. Video is almost always 10 times more on the engagement. So I prefer to put videos up.
The more people that are liking it and the more people that are sharing it, it's going to stay in the feed more.
Timeline, right. But when you go to the actual page, it gets kind of buried after a while. Unless Paul, like Paul said, if you make it a call to action. So, and the other thing I found out, I didn't know this up until I did the first show on Blab, which has been almost 3 weeks now. Facebook doesn't allow anything longer than 45 minutes per video. So I couldn't upload that.
Paul's making a really good point that he gets a lot more play with his podcasts. And I think that's probably going to also depend on who your audience is. I just checked really quickly. The mentions is meant more for public figures, so athletes, musicians, actors, and other influencers. So it's, Brian Fanza, who has a following of thousands of people, was not enough of a public figure to get one of these accounts, though. So that's pretty interesting, because I think he is one of the individuals who's on the leading edge of all social communication. And for him to not have enough of a following to get a Facebook mentions page is pretty sad.
Now, is that only because it's in beta, or is it because that's their target?
That's how they're utilizing it, to make the interactions with the public figure more. And you have to be proven to whatever their definition of a public figure is. And I don't know exactly what that definition is. I'm not sure that it really says, but it's intended to help them connect with their fans better.
You have to, just reading it myself, you have to have a verified Facebook account in order to be eligible for it. So I suppose, popular figures or whatever have verified accounts.
Yeah. I guess I should have kept playing baseball. All right, so we've been on here. Some of us, Sherry's been on for a little while now, and I've been here. We're closing in on 2 hours. Any closing thoughts from anybody?
No, thanks for hosting today, and it was great to see Paul, and it was great to see Fabrizio, and to interact with you as well. I think that was the first reason why I jumped on, because I saw that Paul Deitch was on, and he's just awesome. And so now I've met some new people that I think are really on the leading edge, and that's where I want to be.
Awesome. Sherry, do you have a regular scheduled Blab on here or not?
I don't, not yet, but I'm working with clients to help them establish theirs. I really want to put my clients out there and really help them get established in this area, in their niche that they do. And so I'm really loving being part of anything that is with regard to marketing and public relations and advertising, and social is a huge part of that, I think.
Yes, I agree. Definitely agree. David, do you have a regular scheduled show on here that you can tell us about?
Not yet, but it's something I am considering.
Okay. Edward, it's your first day, so I'm assuming you don't yet?
I don't yet, but it's going to be coming, probably start next week or something.
All right. So I will suggest to everybody, if you jump in on other people's blabs like you did, bye, Sherry, thank you. If you jump in on other people's blabs like David, Edward, and Sheree did, you will gain a following. Paul wants to interview you, David. So you guys can, I'm assuming you already follow each other. So
yeah, we've discussed that already, so hopefully that'll come up soon.
Awesome. I do have I'm going to probably make this a regular scheduled show. I think I'm going to stick with Thursdays at 10 a.m. I have one small conflict. But I think I could work around that, and it's only once a month. So, but I also have a Friday scheduled show. It's called Growth Success Radio. We talk to small business owners about how they can grow their business what pitfalls they should watch out for, what type of marketing they do, all kinds of good stuff. Tomorrow we have the owner of a moving company on. We normally do Fridays at 10. Tomorrow it's at 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you're around, definitely come check that out. If you go to growthsuccessradio.com, you'll get all the information on that show. I'll put it in the chat there. But as Ed and David and Sheree all alluded to, this is, and I see Paul on here all the time, this can be addictive. So you see me on here quite a bit as I'm working. I may not always be paying attention to the chat, but I am around because I'm also working while I'm doing that, which is a nice thing about working for yourself, right? Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
No.
No, none for me. Thanks for allowing me the exposure to the chat.
David, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. And thanks, Ed, for coming in. Thank you, Paul.
It was great meeting you all.
Rizio. Oh, wow. I forgot the other guy, the Facebook guy. I'm forgetting his name. But thanks for everybody that jumped in. And hopefully we'll talk again soon, guys.
All right.
Take care, Scott.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too.